Comrades, welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. I am Admiral Andre, and I welcome you to this, the beginning of a short mini-series of 6 episodes. Can you guess yet what we're building? Well, you'll know, of course, because it's in the title and the thumbnail. But we are starting with Apollo today, comrades. I thought, why delay this further? People want to see it. So we are splitting it up into 6 episodes because you know me, I babble forever and ever, so it's going to be a 6-hour episode, literally, I'm sure, even longer possibly if I put it all together. I've at this point actually recorded the bulk of this episode, so I know it's already more than an hour, and that is just for the CSM. Can you believe it? Anyway, comrades, so the first episode obviously then focuses exactly on that, the command module and the service module. The second episode is going to focus on the Saturn 1B, because that they use to get the CSM into orbit on its own without the LEM, to test it, of course, and we can later use that to go to Skylab and all of those. There was a comment actually asking for Skylab, and I thought that's a great idea, but let's build the Apollo first, because we need that as part of Skylab. Of course, we need the Saturn V to launch Skylab in the first place. So the third episode then is going to focus on the LEM. The fourth will focus on the rover, although we are probably not going to be attaching the rover to the actual LEM because of the scale, comrades. It's really problematic. I'll show you that when we get to it. So we'll probably send the rover to the moon on its own and then send the actual Saturn V. So it will be waiting for us. Then in the 5th episode we'll be building the rest of the Saturn V, so putting the whole stack together. And in the last and 6th episode we will go to the moon, comrades. We will have a whole episode dedicated to having the experience of using our Apollo mission. So with that said, comrades, let's have a look at the Google Images, of course. That's my gospel that I go to, and we can then proceed from there. It's exciting, I have to say. I'm looking forward to this, comrades, so let's go. Now, comrades, here again I have to say I'm uploading a video again. This is the docking tutorial, so things are going to be a bit slow as it was in the salute video as well, but that's okay. We can see all that we have to see here. Now, very interesting. Let's see. I've noticed here, and of course we have the service module now, an actual part for that, but it seems like they remove the panels when they actually go on these missions. Now, some of these images and graphics here will show the panels attached, but if I look at the actual photographs, this is Apollo 15, very clearly we can look into the side there. This is, not sure what that one is. Apollo 17, the same thing, we can see the insides there, so we're going to also be doing that. This one doesn't have a number, but just jettisoning those side panels. But anyway, this will be a very good image for us to look at if it will load one day. So, what do we see here, comrades? We see, of course, the capsule, but with its addition there on the front. That's, of course, where the parachutes will be situated. Then we get the decoupler here and the service module itself. Now, I'm just trying to see where is the door now exactly on this. We're seeing it on a very strange angle there, so I can't actually tell. But with this image here, we can clearly see the door is in line with the RCS thrusters. So if we just go back to this one, it would be just around the corner there. That's where the door would be. So if the RCS thrusters are in line with the door, then these side panels will be at a 45-degree angle. So I always look for that sort of thing. Then, of course, we have the engine, the SPS there, and these high-gain antennas. In that case, we're just going to be using one of our Kerbal high-gain antennas. But I just want to see again now, in the whole scheme of things, where exactly would that be attached now? So that would be between the various RCS thrusters, it would seem. No, this one shows it. It's difficult to say. I know it's slightly offset, but we just need to get a good reference image here. Is this one going to do? Now, of course, yes. So there we can see it sits about right between two of the RCS jets there. So this would be on the side where the panels open up, basically. Now the door is on the top, so that means the antenna is on to the right of the door at a downwards angle. Just have to keep these things in mind. Now this one is Apollo 17 and it shows an antenna on the top as well. Well, I'm assuming that's the top now. It's difficult to say, but there's the clamp that holds the capsule in place. So would that be, I guess, towards the top? Interesting. We don't see that antenna a lot, but here's a good image. There we go. That solves all the problems. So the high gain antennas are offset on the right of the door there. Not quite 45 degrees, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. Then the other antenna is on the top, but again offset, but these ones are not in line with each other. They're certainly not making things easy on us. There's another one out here, but I don't know if we're going to include that one. Here's another one with this antenna. So there's the RCS thruster, so a few degrees offset from that right at the back by this open panel. Okay, comrades, we're going to have to work with that. Let's just have a look here. Of course, we have 3 parachutes, but apparently one was a backup here. Earth landing system. At 7 kilometers, the heat shield is jettisoned, so we're going to have to keep that in mind as well. Then there's apparently, where did I see that now? 2 drogue chutes. It said that somewhere here. 3 main parachutes, 2 drogues. Okay, 2 drogues. I'm not sure where I'm going to attach those, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. Then the 3 main parachutes, and let's just see, what else does it say? At 3 kilometers, the drogues are jettisoned, and then the main parachutes are deployed. So when they are cut, basically, we add the next one to deploy. The portion of the capsule first, ribs to mitigate the force of the impact, and there it says the 3rd parachute is for safety. Okay, comrades, let's get into this. Now, as always, comrades, we have to start with the capsule. So in this case, there is only one option, of course, and that is the new redesigned Mark 1-3 command pod with the door in the right place. Thank goodness. That's going to make everything so much easier for us, because that's what I always use for the reference point. So, well, we can leave the logo on there. That doesn't really matter. But, oh yes, probably people are going to flip out if I don't put an American flag on this thing when we do the actual moon landing, but you know it's only right, so I will be adding that. But now at this point it's just the Design Bureau, the Admiral Design Bureau doing its thing. Now, if I look under the service modules, then we have this small one that goes onto the nose like that. But now, of course, what vexes me here is that it's not in line with the actual capsule. It overhangs there a little bit, so we have to solve this problem. But here at the Admiral Design Bureau, this never gets us down. This is where we are in our element, comrades. So I move this down just slightly, but now looking at the edge there to make sure it is perfectly in line with the rest of the cabin without clipping like that. Well, I guess we're not going to get it perfectly in line, because then we get this situation where it's sticking through the window but it's going underneath. So that's not going to have to be like that. It'll just have to be like this, where it's covering the top of the capsule, but it's much closer now. Okay, that's a good thing there. Now, of course, it does cover this part of the window, but the actual glass or window itself is down there, so it doesn't really have any impact. So I think that is fine there. Now, at the top, of course, we need our docking port, but before we get to that, let's take the shroud away. So now we see the actual nose cone area. Now, of course, they have to vex me even further, comrades, by adding 4 compartments when we only need 3 parachutes. So, solving this problem is another issue entirely. Now, I have done a test here, and I'm very sure it's going to work the same way again. But I'll just test it out. So we're going to take these octagonal struts, our saviors, of course, always, to just put them in here. So let's take 2 and then take 1 on this side only. And then take... Well, in this case, what I do is I take the Mark 16 parachutes. Now, this might seem odd because we do have the Mark II radials, but look how big they are compared to this nose cone. It really, it doesn't fit very well, no matter how you slice it. Of course, you could do it at sort of an angle here, like this, and then... Oh, good grief. Doesn't matter. I don't use that anyway, because then it's overlapping there and all sorts of things. So the Mark 16s actually work really well. 3 of them. I wouldn't have thought it originally that they would actually slow down this craft, but it does work. So let me just double that one. I'm not spending too much time on this because I'm sure these things are going to eject when I detach the shroud. I just want to test that theory. Now again, no matter how we slice this, we're going to get clipping here and all sorts of things because these compartments are not big enough for the parachutes. But that's fine. Let's just use it as a boilerplate test like this. Now we have the 3 there. Now why did I put this one on the top here? It's because obviously we want to, I'm not sure if it will work like this actually, but we're going to test it now. We want it to hit the water at an angle. So when it impacts, I want it to sort of hit like that. That's why I put 1 empty slot on the bottom here. Hopefully it will work like that, but if not, that's also okay. Now the only other thing is, of course, we put the shroud over this and then we put the docking port on the top, and we have to use the small one, the junior here, because that is the only one that works with the MEM. If we have a look at its top there, you can see it's the only size that will work there. So that basically dictates the whole thing. So now if we have a look at this, there's a few issues to keep in mind here, comrades. The first one of these is, if you have them all on the same stage like this, I've run into the problem where the parachutes don't deploy because they still think they are underneath a shroud or a fairing, even though they're all deployed on the same stage. So it works better to put that shroud detaching on its own stage. But for now we'll leave it like that. I just want to test that. For this we will just throw on whatever we can, just some solid fueled rocket, it doesn't matter. I just want to get this thing into the air a little bit, and we will do a quick test. We've ended up here in the Boomerang launch site because of course that's where we were most recently, but this does not matter at all. Let's just SAS and take off here. We have some very brave testers joining us on this mission. Really doesn't matter. I just want us not to go to the mountains. Just get us up into the atmosphere a little bit. About 10 kilometers I'm guessing, or even more actually. Good grief. Well, I'm also going to have to remember to turn the wheel authority off, but that does not matter now. We're just going to get this thing going all sorts of directions. But now I'm just going to deploy the thing. C cannot deploy it while stowed, so the parachutes don't deploy. Now it's all wrong, and if I now deploy it, it will work. But you know, when you're going down rapidly after a moon mission, this is the last problem that you want to have. But actually what I thought was going to happen did not happen here, because I've had this situation where I deploy the fairing and the parachutes fall out. But I think it's because they were actually touching the fairing, and anything touching the fairing is kicked off of the craft. So that doesn't matter. Oh yes, let's Let's just complete this test. I want to deploy all of the parachutes just to see if the thing lands at an angle. Then we can work from there. Then of course we also need the drogue chutes. Not sure where those would go, because now obviously we only have one empty slot there unless we put them on the side. Very gentle. It doesn't have that crazy 15G deceleration, and look at that, 5 meters per second. But this doesn't look nice at all. And it doesn't really go at an angle at all. Barely offset from the center, and this doesn't work for me. I've noticed also that the parachutes will overlap if they're not put onto a craft at the same time in symmetry. If you do this in a 3x symmetry, then they are going to be spaced out here very nicely, because now they're clipping into each other. So anyway, we know now what we need to know, so let's get back into the VAB. We have designing to do, comrades. So we're back. Now we need to just get rid of all of this at the bottom here. Now I also want to just remove the shroud again and basically do the whole thing over. That's why it also didn't kick them out, because the struts were attached to the actual capsule. That was going to be my solution to the problem if the parachutes were detached along with the shroud. So I think it's anyway safer for us to attach the parachutes directly to the capsule and not to that service module, because I've really had that problem where you think everything is going well, detach the shroud and the parachutes go flying out the hatch. That's not a good way to end a mission. Now, in any case here, we are not going to get a satisfactory solution to this. So 3x symmetry it will have to be, comrades. Let's just see. If I put it like this, it's probably going to be the best solution, and then put the service module on top of that. This is also why I'm splitting this whole series, or this Apollo mission, into a mini-series, because this can still take a long time. Just wait till we get to the Saturn V. There we go. Good. Now just remove the shroud again and put the parachutes on in 3x symmetry. Now of course this is not going to work, so we have to maneuver them a little bit. And there is going to be clipping into this compartment system in here no matter what I do. But that kind of does look nice there. It's not terrible. Something like that. Now in this case it doesn't have to be too precise. So now we have to think about the issue of the drogue chutes. Where would they be? Now obviously if we don't want the thing hanging off on one side, we should put them in 2x symmetry. So they can't both fit into this, I guess. Or maybe they could, still in 2x symmetry. We can actually attach stuff to the sides of this compartment system here. So let's actually try this. Just 2x symmetry, but not in snapping. Interesting. Gonna have to do this with the various tools here. Okay, never mind. It's all over the place, comrades. Luckily, we don't really see this. No. Like that. So they're more or less together there. Now we just move it out a little bit. There's no satisfactory solution here, I'm afraid. Again, it's now because of the whole clipping into the sides and through the sides and all of that. That's just how the thing was designed. Though we can just rotate it a little bit. No, the thing itself. There. And also, no, we don't need to rotate this, I think. Okay, well, that'll do for now, comrades. If I move it like this, it looks even worse. But actually, let's play around with this. Good grief, why did they make this so difficult? But if they didn't make it so difficult, there'd be no need for a guide. So I'm not complaining. Okay, that's just my solution now. Of course, if you have a better one, please tell me about it, because that's how we learn from each other. So now if I just throw the shroud on, of course the important thing is they must not clip through the shroud there. And I just want to confirm that these drogue parachutes will not detach when I kick the shroud off. So they have to be moved there, and we have to put that onto its own stage. And then of course we still need the docking port there. I think that'll do. Now we just need again the same story with a test. Now I'm again not caring how this looks. Can even take the thrust limiter down and take some of the fuel out. Just bring it to the normal launch pad, and let's have a look at this. Okay, now in this case I'll have to remember just to program the parachutes onto various shortcut keys, because there is no way to cut the parachutes without individually right-clicking on them, and of course during a flight that's not always the easiest thing. So I always have 0 to detach the launch escape system and fairings, and then number 9 will be to deploy the drogue chutes, and number 8 will be to deploy the main chutes and cut the drogues at the same time. But when we do the actual Apollo mission, I will just go through that again if you want to follow along. So let's just launch this thing out to the coast here. Brave crew, they must be the ones to go to the moon, because they are the ones putting themselves on the line here during the tests. Okay, detach that. I'm not going to worry about SAS right now. I just want us to get past the apoapse here. Okay, so now we're going down. We need to get rid of the shroud. There it goes. Do we still have our parachutes? Yes, we do. Good. So now, unfortunately, this whole thing is not planned, but that's okay. Drogue chutes will deploy, and I just want to see what the thing looks like. A real bother that the lines are going through the docking port, though. I might need to attach them to the bottom there. Although here it doesn't look too terrible. No, it's going to have to change. For those parachutes, I think it will be okay, because they are in symmetry, so they'll be pushing each other away. Let's just wait for full deployment. So they won't clip into each other here. No, okay, that looks good to me. And the lines actually don't clip into the docking port. Now, of course, they clip into the sides of the compartments, but there's nothing I can do about that. So there we go. Now it's about 6 meters per second. That's a very comfortable landing speed, I think. So I'm happy with these parachutes. Now, again, most people probably won't use these specific ones for Apollo, but for me, I think they work really well. So there again, practicality is the golden rule. So let's revert and just sort out those drogue parachutes, comrades. Okay, back to work. So let's remove the shroud here and take these out, and this time attach them to the bottom of the cabin there. Just in 2 times symmetry, but I'm really hoping they're not going to detach again. Now I just want to move them in because they're sticking out here. Okay, at least hopefully now the lines won't go through the docking port. So let's program the thing in, comrades. So 0 I'm not going to worry about yet. So 9 will be drogue chutes. Deploy. Then number 8 is going to be cut the drogue chutes and deploy the main parachutes, and that's it. So let's just put this thing back on and do another test, but now again this just has to be on its own stage there. I'm not going to worry about putting the parachutes on individual stages, although I should, I guess, if you don't want to use the various keys. So let's try again. Okay, test number 3, there we go. Now you see, that's the thing, but I also love doing this. It's always, you know, people think, oh, we can throw the parachutes on and just slap this on and that on and there we go. But if you want to make a nice craft, it takes a lot of time, I have to say. A lot of testing and back and forth and all of that. But I would venture to say most people playing Kerbal Space Program actually like that. So detach that, and doesn't matter, let's keep our orientation, otherwise we're going to flip around now. Okay, so we're coming back from the moon and we are detaching that. And then number 9 and number 8. Beautiful. Okay, we don't need any more tests. Revert the flight. Thank you, crew. Okay, comrades, so we're done with the main part of the actual capsule now. So we can now start with the heat shield. So the heat shield is obviously very easy. We just get the 2.5 meter one and throw that on, but it must be staged as we saw. So that's on its own stage there. And I have to say, mostly I don't stage this heat shield. So when I was looking at preparing for this video, I actually saw that they do detach the heat shield. So I also learned something there. Now I'm not sure if it's necessary to move this thing around here. It's gonna leave a gap if I move it too far down, and it's gonna clip if I move it too far up. So I think it's already in a very good position. Now we just don't need so much ablator. I would say 160 is even more than enough. I think that will be okay. But if your craft blows up, don't blame me. Hopefully not, though. I'm very sure, unless you're coming from another planet, that will be more than enough. So let's move this up a little bit. So that does that part. Now we get to the decoupler. So let's see, which one would this now be? There we go. Now, of course, it's up to you what you want to do here. I'm going to refer back to the images quickly. Now, of course, to protect the heat shield, we can't actually see the heat shield, so it's not going to be like this. But if you want to do this, then that's perfectly fine as well. The decoupler will work as normal, but I'm going to put it there. Now, of course, to just take the shroud away for a moment. Of course, to bring the length of the craft down, we can move this up a little bit. There is still a gap. I just want to see if I bring the service module up. SM25. So the length of this thing, maybe I'll bring the shroud back. I'm just going back to the figures on Google Images. Now if I just roughly guess again, the capsule itself, without the prongs of the docking port, because we don't have those prongs, is just over half of the service module, including this decoupler section. So if I now just guess this again, it's actually a pretty good scale, I have to say, but I'm wondering if it's not a little too long because of this gap in here. I'm going to decrease that. Let's move it up. Of course, this won't affect anything at all as long as it's not clipping there into the heat shield. So let's throw the shroud back on and just have a look at it now. Just guessing again. Yes, I'm happy with that, comrades. Of course, you can tweak it further if you like. Now, the panels here we see, of course, when we do the shroud thing, it opens the whole thing up, but the panels do pop off there on the sides. So actually, before we do anything else, let's just change the whole orientation again. I'm just going back there to confirm that. So in this case, what did we see? It has to be like that, because the RCS stuff has to be directly underneath the door. Now, is this correctly positioned? No, now it's correctly positioned. Now if we have a look again to the door to the right, we have this one panel that's going to pop off. Is that correct? I have a feeling it is not correct. Very pedantic, but I love this sort of thing. Let's just see, in this image, can I actually tell where the door is? No, I can't. Where's that other one that we saw? This one here. Okay, where's the door on that? But now I can't see the panels again. I would say it is basically going to be where the high gain antenna is. So this would be correct. Or is that now correct? Oh, good grief, I forget this stuff so quickly. If I just go back to this image, it's to the right of the door. So yes, it is on this side. So the high gain antenna is going to be down here, and that's where one of the panels is. If I just go back and check again, yep, so that's correct. Otherwise we'd have to make the panel be here, but that's fine. So comrades, I just want to check again. Why am I so extra? Yes, that's right. That's right. Okay, now we can put on... Actually, no, we can't put on the RCS yet, because this thing does not have any fuel. So we're going to have to put on the fuel ourselves. But first, of course, we have to use the engine. Now here it's very easy because they give us the engine. There it goes. So let's just put the shroud back on. But I've noticed something, comrades. Do you see what I see? The engine is not centered on the service module. That's why we have this black section here, because that's where the service module is hanging over. And on this part, the engine is actually hanging over the service module. You can clearly see it's too far to the right. Who knew? Now I just want to see something else. So if the door is there... This doesn't matter at all though. Oh, good grief. This is going to be hard to tell because I can't exactly see everything here. Let me just get back into the game. This is what I'm looking for, comrades, because we can see the bottom here of the engine where it attaches. It has these two circular nodes here. I don't even know what they are. But you see, the thing is not symmetrical here, so they're not on this side. So I just want to see, is it like this, or like this, or like this, or like this? Like, what is it on the actual thing? So that is very difficult to say. Now, I need a picture where the door is. If you work for NASA, please take pictures with a hatch in them so I can see what's happening. Now it looks like the hatch would be up there, so it's to the bottom of the hatch and then to the left. Okay. Not quite, but quite close. So what I'm seeing is it looks like that. It's not quite in line with the door on the bottom, and it goes towards the right like that. So I'm happy with that, comrades. Again, this doesn't matter in the very least, but for my own sake I'm doing that. Now of course we can still see the engine is not aligned properly here. What on earth is happening? So in this case I'm using the absolute offset. Why on earth would you do this? Although I guess the difference is so small, most people won't even notice it, but of course most people don't work for the Admiral Design Bureau. That also looks a bit better. When it's too far up we get this wavy effect here. Are we happy with that? I'm happy with that, comrades, so that's a bit better there. Good. Now we get to the actual service module. So in terms of fuel, I'm just going to put some of these smaller FLT 400 tanks. So we do actually have several attachment points there, but just one of those and then maybe one of these down there. Now it's clipping slightly into the base of the service module, but it's not clipping into the engine housing, so I'm okay with that. Now this gives us 1.3 kilometers per second. This is now of course without having the LEM attached or any other components, so this is more than enough. But it's actually a good thing to have more than enough. Most players will benefit from that, because we still have to get into lunar orbit and of course return home. So it gives us more room for error. But we can see that the engine is grossly overpowered here. Now again, they did this to enable us to use this engine for many different kinds of craft. So I think it's actually a good thing. Otherwise it might be too weak. So in this case, of course, we're just going to bring it down. At this point, I'm just going to say roughly 36%. It doesn't matter because we're not finished with it yet. Now, the service module obviously still needs monopropellant. So let's find some monopropellant tanks here. Again, I would say probably more is better, just to allow more players, freedom to maneuver around. Let's just see. So are we going to have 2 of these? What is this again? 50. So that would be 100. That should be more than enough. So we'll just put them on either side of this tank. We're not going to see this part, so we're not going to be too pedantic about that. What else? We could even add more, one of the smaller tanks perhaps. But I don't think that's necessary. That's just adding more weight. We could even add fuel tanks. But we have more than enough, I think, anyway, I hope. So what's the next thing? Next thing is we're going to need some batteries, comrades. Now, on the real thing again, if I just have a look at the images, when those side panels are removed, we see all sorts of... it's very difficult to say. What are those? Small tanks or, I don't know, rectangular structures and odd gizmos and things. So I think for our sake, let's put the batteries into these compartments. Why not? It doesn't matter again, but I think it's going to just allow us to have access to the batteries if we need to, without having to clip into the craft. So just one of those on either side will do. Now of course this side looks different to this side. Now, I don't know, what are we going to put there? We of course need fuel cells. Now the real thing I think had 3 fuel cells, but even just one of these small ones will be enough. But I'm going to take the big ones just for the appearance of it. So if we put one on either side, actually we could just put one here and then a small one on the other side. Or even something else. For example, if you want scientific equipment to actually use during a career mission, then that would be a nice place to put them. But of course we don't need that for a sandbox. Do I just want one of these? How much do they weigh? 240... No. Yes, 240 kilograms. I was thinking, whoa, that can't be right, but it is right. Well, let's put one on each side. That's going to throw the whole thing off if we don't balance it. No, that clips through there now. So let's move the thing down a bit, just as long as this plug shows. Yes, I'm okay with this, comrades. And then of course we have the batteries on the top. So it's perfectly balanced still, which I think is going to help us during the whole docking and all of that. So of course here you have total freedom to add whatever you like to these service compartments. But at this point I think that will do. We don't even need to worry about this. We can just leave these panels on and solve the problem that way. But anyway, now it's time for the RCS. Now we want to do this pretty much at the end because we want to find where the center point is, and actually we want it like this because the first time we're using monopropellant will be to dock to the LEM while it's still in the S4B stage, and at that point we won't have burned any of our fuel, so our center of mass is still going to be exactly there. So at this point I think we can just add them. Oh, good grief, get a bit closer. That will do, I think, but they stick out a little too far in my opinion. No, there's a problem, there's a problem. The thing was aligned correctly in the first place, I think. No, it's going to have to be moved again. Oh well. No, it's not. Is that right now? Now I think it's correct, and that it wasn't disturbed there, the decoupler, so I think we're okay there. Of course, now this thing is moved a little bit. No, well, I can just use the rotation. That doesn't matter again at all. So just get back to the snapping. And now? That's not quite right, is it? No. That tells me we're still not there. Now we're there. Okay, so this actually tells us where we need to go. So if I just move this up now, there we go. That's pretty much in the middle. Of course, the better aligned that is, the easier it will make the whole docking procedure. Let's just move this thing again. And everything still looks good down there. Yes. Does it? I just dislike the fact that the engine is not aligned properly. No, undo that. I was happy with it before. Okay, leave it like that. So now we need the antennas, comrades. So the antennas, we are using the high gain. Now in this case we saw it will be attached somewhere on this side. And it will be... Let me just get the rotation right, like this. So what happens then, I'm actually going to move it a bit down. Once the fairings go on, it will actually go over that antenna, and then of course when we want to extend it, it will be like that. So of course we only have one dish there, but that's okay. Again, that's what we have to work with, so I'm happy with that. I just want to see again, where exactly is this antenna attached? NASA, if you're looking at this, you can hire me, you know. I'll make sure your stuff is lined up to the last millimeter. I would say at the bottom of that panel, on the one edge. Now what is this image showing me? No, nothing new. Come on, someone's got to see this or show this. If I just go back to that other image with the top-down view. So the door is, or hatch is right there. It's not quite, it is actually pretty much in the middle, but not quite. Actually, it's actually quite close there. Okay, comrades, so I think we're going to put it right in the middle here. It's not exactly there, it's more like this, I would say, but then it messes up the whole alignment of the antenna there and all that. I think it's just easier to put it in the middle here. So I'm going to do that, but I want to move this housing down because when the fairings come on here, I don't want to see that. Now, of course, I don't want it floating in mid-air here or clipping outside there. Okay, that'll do. Now, if I retract the antenna, it's going to fit snugly in there, so it will come to no harm during the ascent. Now, the other antenna, if the hatch is there... No, that's not the antenna I'm looking for. These are not the droids you're looking for. That's the one I'm looking for. So it's just outside the hatch there. Okay, so if I find the hatch here, it's pretty much in line with the outside edge there. If we just go straight down, it will be right there. I'm just using a normal communitron for this. Now, of course, it's not going to want to go right there, so we're going to have to put it on this. It's because the engine plate is rotated there. So we'll go from there and just move it down. We'll put it in the middle there, I think, and then just move it back in until just the red and white is showing. I like doing this lately because the grey part is just the housing for the antenna. There. Now that's obviously going to stick out through the... No, it's actually going to be above the fairings, but that's okay. It is in a safe position there and we can't really see that. So comrades, with this I'm actually quite happy now. I'm noticing something else here, but actually that is a good thing. It is again because the engine is rotated, so the antenna here is not exactly in the middle right there. But that is more again akin to what I was looking for originally. Yes, it's slightly to the left here of the exact 45-degree center line there. So this is actually quite good. It's working out, comrades. The Kerbal engineer gods are with us. So if we have a look now, what do we have? Do we have something that we're happy with? Once the shroud pops off, we're going to see the batteries and the various fuel cells there, which is good. We could even put some small RCS tanks in there to complete the look basically, but I don't know if that's necessary. It could work. You know, this is now not in line with the real thing, but just for the sake of it, let's put some more detail into this. Sometimes we have to deviate from the original. Good grief, is that aligned? Mania, comrades, mania. This thing installs mania. Is that right? Yes, I think so. Okay, now that just gives us a slight bit of a rounded, rounded out look there, so it doesn't have those empty spaces anymore, and we have even more monopropellant. So this still gives us over 1 kilometer of delta V, and of course with the addition of the LEM, this is again now just going to be a boilerplate version. Just throw this on and its fuel tank. Which one did I use? This one. So that gives us 800-ish, 890-ish. So how much do we need? I think this is probably okay, because on the way back, of course, we ditch this. Yes, I'm thinking that's okay. If necessary, of course, we could take the fuel cells out and put more tanks in here. We could even put another of these radial fuel tanks down there, so we still have lots of room to maneuver, but I think this is okay. Now the other thing I wanted to look at here was the positioning of the RCS, because it's clipping. My good grief, talk about giving me grey hair. The nozzles are clipping into the side of the service module. I just want it so that it's actually fitting nice there, but it's not clipping into it. Like that. Is it still plausible? So this obviously fires forward. It doesn't hit that edge there. Yes. Again, it makes no difference. I'm just creating more work for myself, and I am not quite happy with its position there. No, I am. Slight deviations won't matter too much. Now, of course, we have to place the launch escape system on, which is slightly, well, it's not really more complicated now. It's just because of this nose cone thing here, it doesn't fit as flushly anymore. But that's fine, because we still want a shroud to go over the whole capsule here. So for that, obviously, there is only one solution, but I'm wondering, we can make this a staged feature, so we don't have to remember to remove it. So in that case we can actually use a small decoupler, but we don't have to. We can just use the decouple node command there, but that's fine. Then we need a small fairing here with the nose cone on top. Now I have to say again, it vexes me that this cone doesn't cover the entire shroud base, as you can see. Can we do something about that? Yes, we can. Is this even worth it though? Good grief. Who am I kidding? Of course it's worth it. That's what I love doing. There, I don't know if that's really necessary, but okay. Slight little bit of an edge to it there. Now we want the actual fairings to go on, but I can actually move this whole thing down a little bit. The decoupler can go into the fairing base a little. It's still accessible there, of course. And then we just build the fairing. Now in this case we can't just go at an angle the whole way. We'll have to go about to there and then go straight down like that. But that'll do, comrades. That will protect the command module during the ascent. And then of course I also just want to change the strength of this. 70 will do, I think. We don't need to break everyone's necks while this thing is pulling them to safety. Okay, now this order is all messed up. So of course we want the thing not to also have a staged fairing. So we want the launch escape system plus the decoupler there. Now that's the other shroud, so that's not the fairing. So this will go then later in the mission. Of course the SPS will fire. Then when do we get rid of the side panels here? Unfortunately I can't make this not staged, so we will always have this detaching as a stage here. Do we do this probably after we fire the... no, it's probably before. I don't know. This is something I have no clue about. Probably. Okay, well, we'll leave it like that. Then, of course, we detach the actual capsule. Then we ditch the heat shield. Then we ditch... Do we ditch the heat shield before we actually get the drogue chutes out? Let me have a look here. No, first the heat shield, then the drogue chutes were deployed. So this actually works. So that detaches, then the drogue chutes come out, and then the rest of the story will proceed as it should. So I'm going to save this now as tutorial Apollo CSM making history expansion. Save. Now let's do a test, comrades. Now we're going to do a sort of a Little Joe type test, but with the whole thing here. So in this case, this would actually be Little Joe 2. Little Joe 1 was with the Mercury capsules, I think. So we just throw that on, then we'll throw a short-ish tank on, take all the fuel out. Get the solid fuel rockets, just these hammers, I think. Now in this case it doesn't really matter. 4 of them maybe? Might be too much. Overkill, I think. Move it in there. Oh, it's all looking horrible, but I don't care too much. This is purely for the test. Okay, that'll do. Now, when that goes, it gives us too much thrust there, so we'll bring that down. This will give us quite a bit of distance there. We just need some fins then. It's like I always say, if we're going to do something, let's do it properly. Although I have to say, this is the first time I'm saying that on video, but there we go. Okay, let's test this whole thing. We'll do an abort test and okay, now if we're going to do an abort test, we actually have to program the abort in. So in an abort situation, the less engine is going to fire. Do we need to ditch the heat shield? We could actually. Not sure what happened in a real situation. If we jettison the heat shield, we don't need to worry about doing that after we detach here. We are going to be in a rush to deploy the parachutes anyway. Okay, that'll do. Doesn't help shutting the engines down now. So save this and we go, comrades, we go. So let's see. Also, I still have to remember to shut the wheel authority down, but right now we can actually still use that. So SAS on and ignite, and just get us moving slightly to the side there. And we are going to see, oh no, bad situation, abort. 0, oh, I didn't program the 0 in, but we just detach that, turn this off, get the drogue chutes out. There we go, comrades. So the escape system was a total success without breaking anyone's neck. And I love how this thing is lawn darting into the horizon there. And then voila, there we go. So I'm just going to revert back to the launch. And then we'll just do a normal test where we separate and then get rid of the heat shield. Now, of course, I didn't program that in. I'm just going to have to revert quickly, comrades. Of course, I still have to program this. So let's go to... Now, what's happening here? What on earth? There. I was half asleep for a moment. Actions 0. So in the 0 situation, we fire the engine there and we detach the decoupler, although we could just say decouple the node, but since we have it, let's use it. Then that will just pull the whole thing away. So save again and go back to the launch site. So let's go again, comrades. Ignite and get us slightly turning over, and that's it. We can just even let the aerodynamic forces do the rest of the turn. So our crew is still looking okay. Well, at least Jeb is always. Bill is not happy. He's thinking, why am I being put in so much danger? Bob is just panicking, going crazy. I'm sorry, guys. You're gonna be rewarded with a nice moon landing, though. At least 2 of you are. Let's just get us turning over a bit more, and there, that thing goes. So the separation is nice and smooth, and then of course we have that separating, and we fire the panels off and then the engine. So this is how the thing is going to be looking in space. Yes, well, they did this in real life apparently. So then we can of course start the fuel cells, check the batteries, check the monopropellant there, do all sorts of nice things, and when we are done we just ditch that and proceed as normal, comrades. Detachment was very smooth there as well, so I'm happy with that. Excellent. Now everyone is happy. They now have confidence in this craft. Of course, then we ditch the heat shield and everyone is still happy. And then we get, you know, with the drogue chutes and, of course, then the main parachutes. Actually, let's test the drogue chutes. This is a very wobbly ride here. Maybe this is a problem to detach the heat shield first. In the real one they used some kind of gas canisters to remove the heat shield from the cabin there. I wonder if I should also do something like that. Ah, no, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. Most of the lines are okay. Why are we... No, okay, we're just bouncing. We're not actually hanging off to one side. And they are mostly not clipping into each other. So I'm happy. Let's revert. Let me just have a look again at Wikipedia. Command module offset. The forward heat shield was jettisoned using 4 pressurized gas compression springs. Now, I can't recreate that, unfortunately. And I'm going to sneeze horribly now. Excuse me, comrades. False alarm, apparently. Oh well, so what do we do here? Are we going to add a separatron to this? Oh, good grief. Is that going to end well or not? Let's add 1, but now how on earth are we going to do this? It doesn't want to attach to the heat shield. No, you see it disappears. What if I go this way? Now we're looking at the heat shield. It might work, it might work. Well, I'm just going to have to detach this decoupler. I was trying to avoid that, but you know, it doesn't really matter. Yes, you see, it doesn't attach at all to the heat shield. I guess they didn't want us to do that. How would we solve that problem? Should we even solve it? Not even the octagonal struts attached to that, which I think is a sign, comrades, so let's not worry about it. The heat shield will just detach, but will still sort of hang there in position, but I guess trying to solve that with separatrons with more boosters is not really working. Can you believe it? More boosters doesn't help. Let's move this back again. And I think, okay, we're not going to see that, so don't worry about that. There, good, back again. So save, and comrades, that is it for today's video. Now in the next one we will be building the Saturn 1B, so obviously we need to test the SPS and the whole service module in low Kerbal orbit before we bring the LEM out. Actually, now I'm wondering, no, I'm happy with that. The angle here on the fairing, but it's not going to work otherwise because it won't attach to another fairing, so that actually is correct there. So yes, that's the next order of business, comrades. Of course, I will put this for you in the description in the Dropbox again, so you may proceed with your various experiments. Let's hope your Kerbals survive them all. There is one more thing though, just custom one, and that is going to be deploying the various antennas. Looking in the wrong place, or am I? No, I'm not actually. Well, slightly clipping out there, but the S4B fairings will come at it from an angle. Toggle antenna and toggle antenna, so that will do. Save finally, and I will see you next time, comrades. Thank you for watching and putting up with my babbling and various experimentations. Let's hope at the end of the day we get a nice looking Apollo Saturn, Apollo 11, although we'll be using the rover as well. Actually, towards that I can just show you. Now I have saved this, so open space plane hangar. I have built a rover already. Of course, this has a capsule attached to the back. Doesn't matter. But that was my solution as it was. We can tweak this a little bit. I know the backing here is a bit too high maybe. And of course we're using a liquid filled engine for the TV camera. But you know, this, if you look at the scale of the actual LEM or MEM, it's the rover is bigger than that. It's not going to work like that. We'll have to send it to the moon on its own, but that's also okay. Again, practicality being the golden rule. See you next time, comrades. Have a fantastic day.